What if I told you that Israel and Iran, two sworn enemies today, used to be secret allies? Not just shaking hands, but working together on intelligence missions, arms deals, and even nuclear research. It sounds like a political thriller, but it actually happened. Back in the 1950s through the late 70s, Iran, under Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, was a secular pro-Western monarchy. Israel, still a young state surrounded by hostile Arab neighbors, was struggling to survive. So what did they do? They quietly joined forces against a common enemy. The Shah's Iran quietly recognized Israel, sold it oil when no one else would, and cooperated on military and intelligence operations. Israel's Mossad and Iran's Savak worked side by side. And yes, they even collaborated on nuclear technology. It was the ultimate case of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Together they pushed back against Arab nationalism, pan-Arabism, and the spread of Soviet influence in the region. Israel gained a powerful regional ally. Iran gained access to Western technology and intelligence expertise. But this unlikely friendship was never meant to last. Then came 1979 and everything changed. The Iranian Revolution swept through the country like a tidal wave. The Shah, America's close ally, was ousted, and in his place rose a brand new regime, a theocratic Islamic republic led by Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, a firebrand cleric with a radical vision. The new regime branded Israel as an illegitimate occupier of Muslim land. They called it the Little Satan, and its ally, the United States, became the Great Satan. The new regime cut all diplomatic ties with Israel. Embassies were shut down, flights halted. Intelligence cooperation vanished overnight. But Iran didn't just walk away. They turned their attention toward something far more aggressive: exporting the Islamic Revolution, not just inside Iran, but across the Middle East. That meant empowering any group that opposed Israel. In Lebanon, they backed a rising Shiite militia called Hezbollah. In Palestinian territories, they began supporting Hamas and Islamic Jihad. Weapons, training, and funding flowed from Tehran into groups that had one goal: destroy Israel. These groups weren't interested in diplomacy. Their mission was simple: wipe Israel off the map. So, in just a few years, Iran and Israel went from quiet collaborators to sworn enemies, not just across borders, but across worldviews. The Iran-Israel conflict isn't just about borders or power. It's a clash of two worldviews that cannot peacefully coexist. Iran, religious ideology as foreign policy. Ever since the 1979 Islamic Revolution, Iran hasn't just been a country, it's been a theocratic project. Led by Shia clerics, Iran's government sees itself as the guardian of Islam against Western influence. And to them, Israel represents the ultimate enemy, a Western-backed state planted in Muslim land. Ayatollah Khomeini, the founder of the Islamic Republic, and his successors, especially Ayatollah Khamenei, have continued that line. Israel must be wiped off the map. To Iran's hardline clerics, the destruction of Israel isn't just politics, it's a religious obligation. They believe liberating Jerusalem, Al-Quds, is a sacred duty tied to Islamic prophecy. On the other side, Israel sees Iran as its most dangerous enemy. Why? Because Iran is the only country in the world whose official government policy includes the elimination of Israel. Not a rival, not a critic. A nation that openly calls for your destruction, builds missiles labeled "Death to Israel" and backs groups like Hezbollah and Islamic Jihad. For Israelis, this isn't about territory or treaties. It's about survival. It's not just a disagreement. It's a war of identities. This conflict is fueled by religion versus secular democracy, theocracy versus pluralism, revolutionary Islam versus Western-style nationhood. Iran sees Israel's very existence as an offense. Israel sees Iran's ideology as a threat to life itself. This isn't just diplomacy gone wrong. It's identity warfare, where compromise is almost impossible. Because both sides believe they're fighting for something sacred. The biggest flashpoint in the relationship? Iran's nuclear program. Iran says its nuclear program is for peaceful energy use and medical research. Israel, and much of the West, believes that's a lie. Because here's the terrifying truth. A nuclear-armed Iran would shift the entire balance of power in the Middle East. And for Israel, a country the size of New Jersey, one bomb could mean total annihilation. As far back as the early 2000s, Israel began sounding the alarm. They lobbied the United Nations, the United States, the European Union. They pushed for crippling economic sanctions. But behind closed doors, they were preparing for a different option: covert action. That's when things got cinematic. In 2010, a computer virus called Stuxnet hit Iran's Natanz nuclear facility. It wasn't just malware, it was a surgical cyberstrike. The virus targeted uranium centrifuges, making them spin out of control while showing normal readings. Roughly 1,000 centrifuges were destroyed, setting Iran's program back months or even years. Experts say it was a joint operation between Israel's Mossad and the United States' NSA. Neither country confirmed it, but everyone knew. Then came the mysterious deaths. Between 2010 and 2012, at least 5 Iranian nuclear scientists were killed. Drive-by shootings, remote detonated car bombs, explosions that seemed too precise to be accidents. No one claimed responsibility, but Iran accused Mossad of running a shadow war inside its borders. And the message? If we can't stop your program, we'll stop your scientists. But Iran didn't stop. Despite the setbacks, Iran continued enriching uranium. It hid some facilities. It played a cat-and-mouse game with IAEA inspectors. In 2015, Iran signed the JCPOA, Iran nuclear deal with world powers, agreeing to limit its program in exchange for sanction relief. But in 2018, the United States pulled out of the deal. Iran ramped back up. As of now, Iran is enriching uranium to near weapons grade. Israel has warned, "We will not allow Iran to become a nuclear state, period." This is no longer about politics, it's a ticking clock. But history is never simple. During the brutal Iran-Iraq War, 1980 to 1988, Israel secretly sold weapons to the same Iran whose leaders called for its destruction. It sounds insane until you look at the bigger picture, because at that time, Iraq under Saddam Hussein was the real monster in the room. He had invaded Iran. He was using chemical weapons, and he was being armed by the Soviet Union, France, and even some Gulf states. To Israel, a powerful Saddam was far more dangerous than a wounded Iran. So they made a choice. Help Iran, just enough to keep Saddam in check. That meant covert arms shipments, missiles, spare parts, even intelligence. But Israel wasn't acting alone. Here's where it gets messy. Behind the scenes, the United States was also involved, specifically under President Ronald Reagan. Why? Because the Reagan administration had 2 big goals: free American hostages held by Iranian-backed groups in Lebanon, support anti-communist rebels, the Contras, in Nicaragua. Problem: Congress had banned funding the Contras. Solution: go around Congress quietly. So here's what happened. The United States secretly sold missiles to Iran via Israel, hoping Iran would pressure Hezbollah to release American hostages. The profits from those arms sales were illegally diverted to fund the Contras in Latin America. This double-dealing operation became known as the Iran-Contra affair. When the scandal broke in 1986, it rocked Washington. It exposed covert arms deals with a so-called enemy state. It revealed how the United States government lied to Congress and the public. It led to hearings, resignations, criminal indictments, and a deep erosion of trust. President Reagan denied knowing the details. Israel, meanwhile, kept its head down, but its role was critical. This was a moment when ideals were tossed aside and raw strategic interests took over. Israel helped arm Iran to stop Iraq. The United States used arms sales to Iran to free hostages and fund anti-communist wars. Enemies became partners. Allies became opportunists. And the world saw that in geopolitics, nothing is black and white. It's not about who you like. It's about who you need in that moment. Today, Iran and Israel no longer confront each other directly. Instead, they fight a shadow war through proxies, cyberattacks, and carefully targeted airstrikes. Iran's playbook is to expand its influence through a network of armed groups across the Middle East. It provides funding, weapons, and training to Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas and Islamic Jihad in Gaza, the Houthis in Yemen, and Shia militias in Iraq and Syria. These groups don't just act independently. They're Iran's extended arm, designed to pressure Israel and deter Western allies in the region. Israel's response? Hit hard and hit first. Its military doctrine emphasizes preemptive action. That means drone strikes, sabotage, cyber warfare, and precision air raids, mostly unclaimed but unmistakably Israeli in execution. Syria has become the most active battlefield in this Cold War. Since the Syrian civil war erupted, Iran has used the chaos to establish military infrastructure near the Israeli border. Israel, in turn, has launched hundreds of airstrikes on Iranian weapons shipments, missile factories, and bases within Syria. And just to the north, Hezbollah now holds over 100,000 missiles, many capable of hitting deep into Israeli territory. Every time tensions flare, whether in Gaza or Lebanon, there's a risk of a regional war igniting almost instantly. This is no longer a Cold War, it's a regional chess match played with real weapons. Each side moves carefully, calculating the cost of every escalation, because one misstep could ignite an all-out war neither wants, but both are preparing for. The Israel-Iran rivalry isn't just a local feud, it's shaped by powerful global allies. Israel, despite being a small country by size, wields enormous influence thanks to its ironclad alliance with the United States. Since the 1970s, the United States has poured over $150 billion in military and economic aid into Israel, more than to any other country. From F-35 fighter jets to Iron Dome missile defense, Israel's military edge is heavily American-made. Beyond weapons, the United States provides Israel with something even more valuable: diplomatic cover. At the United Nations, America regularly vetoes resolutions critical of Israel. In international forums, Washington ensures Israel's security concerns remain front and center. Meanwhile, Iran doesn't stand alone either. Russia sees Iran as a useful partner in Syria, where both countries prop up the Assad regime. Iran supplies ground troops and militias. Russia provides air support. Together, they've kept Assad in power. China, on the other hand, plays a more economic role. Even under strict United States sanctions, China continues to buy Iranian oil, helping Tehran's economy stay afloat. In return, Iran opens its markets to Chinese infrastructure deals under Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative. Then there's the Arab Gulf states, once Israel's sworn enemies. But things have changed. After decades of conflict with Israel, countries like the UAE, Bahrain, and even Saudi Arabia are rethinking their strategy. Not because they've become fans of Zionism, but because they fear Iran more than they hate Israel. That's why the Abraham Accords happened. The Abraham Accords, signed in 2020, marked a dramatic diplomatic shift. For the first time, Arab nations openly normalized ties with Israel, bypassing the Palestinian issue entirely. So how did we get here? From secret handshakes to missile strikes, from shared nuclear dreams to proxy warfare. The story of Israel and Iran is a story of how alliances can shatter overnight, of how ideology can override history, of how the past can haunt the present. In the Middle East, there are no permanent friends, only shifting alliances and permanent interests. And in that world, Israel and Iran are destined to remain locked in a shadow war until something breaks the cycle or escalates it beyond control. Because here, history never stays buried for long.